Hello, hello, hello. Veda Dave here, recording this on Sunday, November 29th, 2020. It's an 11/11 day. November is the 11th month. 29, 2 plus 9 is an 11. 11 plus 11 is 22. 2020 is a 22 year, so one of those auspicious numerological days. And there is a lunar eclipse this evening in the sign of sidereal Taurus, with the sun in sidereal Scorpio. So we're going to talk a little bit about what all is happening here. It is it's a pretty powerful moment in time, and some of the mythology associated with these areas of the sky is really potent and I think reflective of this moment in history. So let's have a look here. We can see that in order to be astronomically accurate, I had to have Taurus upside down here, but you can see this is Taurus, and here's the moon. And as I'm speaking, the moon is in Kritika Nakshatra, and that area of the sky is associated with the Pleiades, the seven sisters, and the Pleiades have many mystical associations in many different traditions around the world, from Aboriginal Australians, the Dogon tribe in Mali, lots of Native American myths. This set of seven stars are commonly associated with creation myths. They're called the star mothers in certain traditions. They're very much involved in women's empowerment, women's dreams. There's a fertility aspect to it as creator goddesses. And this whole area of the sky, so this eclipse is, the moon is moving in this direction, and Aldebaran here is the bull's eye. It's literally the eye of the bull here, of Taurus, and that's the marker for the Nakshatra Rohini, which is the Nakshatra, the 13-degree sliver of the sky where the moon is exalted. Its favorite place to be in the whole zodiac. Chandra, the masculine moon god, proposed to Daksha Prajapati that he marry all 27 of Prajapati's 60 daughters, and these 27 daughters are represented by the nakshatras of that encircle the zodiac, and so that marriage was allowed on the condition that Chandra honor all the wives equally and spend equal amounts of time with them and love them all. And this was agreed to, except that Chandra was most in love with Rohini and charmed by her beauty and her magic, and so he was spending more time with Rohini, and all the other wives complained. They complained to their daddy Daksha, who, after a couple warnings, had no choice but to curse the moon to fade into oblivion. And so, seeing this, the sisters regretted. They didn't want to kill the moon. They didn't want to kill Chandra. They just wanted their fair share of attention. And so Chandra performed a certain amount of penance, went and saw Lord Shiva, who then sent his wife Sati to deliver the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, commonly known as the Trayambakam, to Chandra, so that a curse once made cannot be undone. but it can be augmented and pushed back against. So the curse of Daksha persists, and the moon must wane into darkness every month. But because of the power of the Trayambaka mantra, Chandra regains his strength and returns to full glory in these waxing and waning cycles. So we have the cycles of the moon thanks to Rohini in this area of the sky. Now, there are myths throughout all these different traditions. This whole area of the sky is very much associated with these myths of like great beings of great beauty, these sort of seductress kind of vibes, and also with a certain amount of incest and this is a theme throughout all sorts of religious traditions, and it's sort of the paradox of creation, right? Well, you know, in these patriarchal religious traditions, it's always a creator god, isn't it? And so in this case, you know, in the Vedic tradition, the creator, Brahaspati, creates his most beautiful daughter and then wishes to procreate with her. And it's sort of like the purpose for why he created her. But then there's this whole drama around how inappropriate that is, and the gods sort of abandon him, and there's this whole drama. And then if you think about the story of the Bible, Adam and Eve, you know, if you think of the logic of that, they had 3 sons, right? I think that's right. And like, how did the rest of the world populate from there, right? There's this incest built into these stories that on some level becomes unavoidable from a mythological standpoint. So this is this whole area of the sky that's associated with those energies. And so this is where this eclipse is happening. And in the Mayan tradition, the area of Pleiades, Aldebaran, is associated with the great cosmic tree. And the maiden escapes up the tree to escape her father and her other pursuers, to avoid this incestual encounter. And it is her climbing that shakes the tree, and the shaking of the cosmic tree sort of, well, it is said to bring about worldly chaos, cataclysms, great difficulty. But it's the difficulty, it's the shaking of the tree that brings in the new age, that is ultimately a creative force. And so that's this area of the sky where we have a lunar eclipse tonight, 2:30 a.m. Mountain Time. It's going to be 9:30 in the morning here in Lisbon tomorrow, Monday morning. So we need not be afraid, because we see it happening around us already, don't we? Doesn't it seem like the world tree is shaking a little bit, and that is disruptive, a little bit chaotic for sure, and it is very clearly ushering in a new age. There's a whole new world in the birthing right now, and to give birth is a life or death circumstance, right? In that process, both mom and baby are in danger, right? Even when it's going perfectly, it is this encounter with mortality. It's dangerous. So that's what's happening. Now, on the other side of that spectrum, so right now the sun is down here in Scorpio, shining light on the shadowy realms, and this is Anuradha Nakshatra, and Anuradha is, of course, sort of the counterbalance to this. You know, it's exactly opposite in the zodiac, right? So it's this opposite polarity, and the other end of this sort of incestuous, temptress, you know, overzealous romantic direction, we have the divine friend. And Anuradha means to follow Radha. And Radha is the consort of Lord Krishna. And yes, there's a romantic quality to that, but mostly they are divine friends. And Radha teaches Krishna many important spiritual lessons, even though Krishna is like the creator of all beings and the Lord, Lord Krishna, right? But Radha has this unique feminine wisdom, right? That is the counter prevailing energy and needed counterpoint to Lord Krishna. So that's this area of the sky, and you see, the sun is down here, and also this, you see the Milky Way galaxy here, right? Exists in this realm of the sky, and we can consider this as like the root system of the tree, and then the tree sort of grows up and out, right? And there's all the fruits up here. One of the other things that Rohini signifies is wealth, prosperity, and generally signifies a certain amount of psychological contentment. The moon is exalted here. This is the moon's favorite place to be, because the moon, representing the mind and our emotions, is always in motion, always moving, always somewhere else, every night in a new nakshatra. And it's in Rohini, that in the fixed earth sign that is Taurus, that the moon can like relax a little bit, finds the structure and solidity that it so desires. Now, when there is an eclipse there, it undermines that stability a little bit, right? And so the things that we rely on, our wealth, our which takes many forms, right? It can be our romantic partner, it can be our friends, it can be our material, monetary wealth, that where we find comfort and stability and peace of mind, right? These things are being crossed by the shadow planet, right? By Rahu, who is this sort of tornado-like demon who comes and stirs that up, destabilizes things. And Rahu destabilizes things. Really, he's the cutting edge of our karmic growth, right? So again, there's this shaking of the tree, but it ought to indicate shaking things up for evolution, for growth and betterment. But it's uncomfortable. When we are looking for stable ground and the earth shakes, then what do? We have to find a whole new level of stability. When rock bottom gives out, what do we do then? Makes me think of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who's a problematic being in so many ways, but beautiful also. And he is famous for saying, the trouble is you're falling endlessly through all time and space, falling. The good news is that there is no ground. And so that feels a little bit like where we're at right now. So yeah, the antidote to that instability when the ground shakes is to go to our root system, which the astrology of Anuradha Nakshatra, where the sun is that most consistent force of energy, that literally the life force, the source of all warmth and light and heat on the planet, is in Anuradha, which means to follow the divine friend in the form of Radha, the feminine friend, which is the opposite of incest, right? And so take refuge in your spiritual practices, in cultivating your awareness of the divine as an equal, as a friendly. There's many different forms of devotion. You can worship the divine like as a teacher, as sort of this horizontal upward looking move. You can worship the divine as a child that you must care for and tend to. You can also worship the divine as the divine friend, as a companion on this journey through life. So yeah, that might be about what I came to say today. there's a lot happening. Just to summarize, we are in an incredibly tumultuous time, and it's obvious in the world, and it's reflected in the astrology, right? So this eclipse is the first eclipse since the nodes changed signs, right? For the past year and a half, 18 months leading up to September 22nd of 2020, Rahu is transiting here. Oh. Rahu is transiting here through Gemini. And then on September 22nd, Rahu entered and will be here until April of 2022. So this is a switch. Gemini is an air sign and Taurus is an earth sign. And the opposite axis here, Ketu was moving through Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, and now, from September through April 2022 is here in Scorpio, which is a water sign. So we've moved from air fire to earth water, and this is now the first eclipse, which is really like sort of the activation of that axis. Going to set the tone, really activate that energy, and so things are slowing down, right? How do air and fire interact, right? It's a fire tornado in so many ways, and versus earth and water, which is much slower, much more stable, much more steady. So there is this sort of paradoxical energy to this moment where if we can connect to the divine friend, there's opportunity to go deep into the psyche and uproot, shake out what isn't serving us, that which is just below the surface, that wants to rise, can be worked through and dealt with and usher in great positive transformation. And that is destabilizing, right? We have to dig in when the roots get churned up a little bit. That can be rough. So both of those things are happening and ready to happen right now. So just to sort of summarize the changes that we're in the midst of here. So the nodes changed signs in September. Just last week, a little more than that, November 19th, Jupiter entered Capricorn here and started this dance, this convergence with Saturn, which is going to happen on December 21st, winter solstice, great conjunction. This event happens once every 20 years. This particular event, last time this happened in Capricorn was in 1961, right after a young man named JFK was inaugurated and sort of kicked off the decade of the 1960s. We can see a lot of parallels to that right now. And the last time that a great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn happened on a winter solstice was about 800 years ago. So depending how you want to measure, these are momentous times. And the other thing to mention, okay, so in 2 weeks from now, December 14th, we're going to have a solar eclipse down here in Scorpio. And so that's sort of the, every time eclipses come in pairs, right? Full moon, new moon. And so we'll talk about that when the time comes. The other thing to look out for is December 23rd, Mars changes signs, goes into Aries, which is its own sign and is a fire sign, the warrior planet in a fire sign. This portends a certain amount of action. It's worldly aggression, honestly, and it can be this impulsive, fiery, explosive energy. So be ready for that. Mars was in Aries earlier this summer when we saw a lot of cities on fire, to be honest. That's the energy that's active starting December 23rd. And which is 2 days after Jupiter and Saturn will cross paths, which also marks the start of a 200-year cycle that is dominated by Earth signs. So there's a whole new phase starting there after 200 years of fire signs being the sort of reference point for that great conjunction. I think that's it for now. So take care of yourselves, err on the side of caution, attend to your worldly duties, but focus on your spiritual practices, cultivate your relationship with subtle divine forces, This is a really auspicious time to do some inner psychological work. There's this great opportunity to get at what is living just below the surface and clear it once and for all. And so that work can and should be done on an individual level with appropriate professional support as needed. And it is obviously happening on a collective level. So one of the things to know, one of these principles, is that very often these energies are coming up in order to pass away, right? In order to be processed out of the body, you know, toxic substances have to be digested. And so that's where, you know, we get a fever and it's really uncomfortable for a little while, but that's actually part of the healing process. Or if anybody's ever done a cleanse, you know, the first day or two you feel great, and then, you know, days 3 through 5 are horrible because all of the gunk that's been built up is passing through your liver and your kidneys, and while it's being processed, you feel sick, you feel deeply ill. But that is the healing process. So we are in a healing crisis, is how I see it at the moment, and it is painful. And there's many of us suffering, many humans going through crisis, and so we want to be as attentive to that as possible, and treat all those who are suffering on every level, right? Whether it's material or psycho-emotional or spiritually, we want to treat them as the divine friend, and take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and we'll make it through. And so I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.